This is Angela with Danceable Thoughts, and this is our weekly podcast. Hear it tonight, use it tomorrow. This is season 2, episode 9. I'm calling it Hide the Vegetables. Now, am I talking to you about food? Not really, but I bet anybody out there, my performing arts educators, or just my friends who listen, will get this concept pretty comfortably. So there's always been this push to eat more healthy and eat correctly. And of course, one of the biggest things is we have to eat our vegetables. Well, if you're a parent, you know that you try to hide the vegetables in a way that the kiddos don't quite find them. Well, I'm going to take that same concept and I'm going to take it into the world of writing lesson plans and designing activities for your students. Now, of course, just like we have a recipe that tells us to put all these healthy ingredients in, we have the curriculum, which tells us we need to be teaching all of these concepts. And we call these concepts, we call them TEKs, or we think of them as objectives, or we may consider them learning outcomes or success criteria. I've actually started calling them the achievements list. We give all of these vegetables, these creative and education ease terms, but the truth is that what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that all the good stuff gets put out there in the buffet of learning that we are offering our students. Hey, notice what I said there? I'm putting it out there in hopes that my students will partake in it. I certainly want to do everything I can to see that they pick up this important and vital information or experiences, but I'm not ever going to discount the fact that sometimes the kids are going to have to take a little bit of the learning on themselves. Sometimes you got to say, I know you found the vegetable hidden in the casserole, but go ahead and take that bite anyway. We're going to try to make that experience a lot more pleasant. And so I'm going to talk to you about an experience that I had this week, something that I was working on, and you'll probably get tickled. So if you've been following along with my Danceable Thoughts post, I started in September encouraging everyone to use the month of October to introduce ballet concepts in your classes, and even with your performing groups, to give them a little more of that technique and a little more of that vocab that is quite universal to the different genres of dance. So I started with just the actual calendar of October with the dates on it. October works for a number of reasons. One of the things that happens in October is a World Ballet Day, which happens to be, I believe, on the 23rd this year, and I've got some ideas for you to do on that day. Also, I think it's a great transition because you have started the year strong. Whether you've done some jazz and a little bit of hip hop and some fundamentals or some fitness dance, you've gotten your students in the groove with you. If you're thinking of your performing group, speaking in my dance world, you've gotten them into a pattern of here's the systems we use, here's the warm-up, here's the across the floor, here are the technique exercises. Whether I'm in my dance class, my friends in the choral world, they do certain warm-ups. Certainly my musicians have taught their students the correct ways to do things. So in my world, of course, the fundamental that we want them to go to and utilize is ballet. I think my performing arts friends in other areas might have a different thought. But here's the same. Ballet seems very dry, and it seems almost removed from what's cool and hip in their world. Well, whether it's cool and hip or not, it's something they need to learn. So what I like to do is use this time to help the kids understand that there's great value in learning this, and there's going to really be some nice accomplishments that they'll achieve down the road if they get these fundamentals in place right now. So in my lesson planning, like I said, I started with the month of October, got it all nice and neat on the calendar, exactly date by date by date, and then I thought, okay, I need to expand on this. I'm going to make this more useful to my friends, and I really wanted to mimic for my Danceable Thoughts followers pretty much what I did in my classrooms over the years. So I used from about October till the winter break, I used that time to create lesson plans and experiences for my students that were ballet based. I would give them the ballet fundamentals, but then from there we would jump into other areas where ballet base would really be useful to them. So it worked out nicely. So here I am working so hard trying not to stay on the exact dates of the calendar, but saying, all right, I'm going to think about what I want to do first, and then we're going to do this. I'm going to leave ample time in there for testing and a few catch-up days, spice it up. So I wrote 12 weeks. A 12-week calendar, 12-week planned out. Here's what we're going to do first. Here's what we're going to do second. And I didn't go super specific, so you had room to play with it. So, of course, I taught it during the fall, which led into the holiday season. And so my ballet study that we did and the creative project and the choreography project was based on the Nutcracker Ballet Classic, something everybody should know. So I did that in the fall, but I thought I'm going to leave this pretty generic, so that if somebody wanted to do it a different time frame, different part of the year, same thing. Worked so hard on it, so proud of it, then got to thinking, I better check the school calendars. And so I pulled up a couple of different calendars from friends, districts around me. 10 weeks left. There's really only 10 weeks left, and that doesn't even count the fact that you're going to have some days off for Thanksgiving holidays and that type of stuff. You may miss a day or two for testing. So yeah, I did all of that planning. So you got more than enough stuff. If you want to check out that planning calendar, it is on Teachers Pay Teachers. You'll find it there. It's both standalone as an item that you can purchase, and it is part of the ballet bundle. I took all my different resources that I have created related to ballet education for public schools, and I put them in one big bundle, and it's on sale this weekend. If you're listening to this podcast on Sunday night as sort of by design, I hope you are. There's still time for that sale for you to jump in there and find those resources. So just want to let you know about that, kind of laugh along with me. I cannot believe that I worked so hard, but at that point, I thought to myself, it's going to be an everlasting calendar. It's going to be 12 weeks that people can modify as they need to. So with that said, let me tell you how in the 12 weeks, I did some different things to add not just ballet into that, but like I said, hide the vegetables a little bit for them. What are these vegetables? Dance vegetables that I'm trying to hide in the curriculum? Well, it's not so much that I have to hide them. It's just that I want to teach them to eat their veggies and like it, to learn their ballet technique and like it, and understand that it's going to be nutritionally good for them down the road. So if I teach them the importance of the strength of the ballet posture and the core, and that helps them balance. Ballet dancers up on the tiptoe on their point shoes, they don't balance because of what's on their toe. They balance because of the alignment from their ankle all the way up. And that solid core that teaches students how to go off balance and then back on balance. Of course, you use that in modern a lot. You see it in jazz. Well, it starts by being strengthened at the ballet bar. Of course, there's nothing wrong with doing CrossFit and all those other kinds of things to develop the abdominals, six-pack abs and stuff. There's nothing quite like that ballet posture to carry you from style to style to style in dancing. And speaking of carrying you from place to place, that's the vocab as well. Now, you don't have to go hardcore all the way into the complete terminology list that is typical of a ballet class, but a lot of the vocab crosses over into the other genres. So your students are going to be more comfortable when they try something else, because they will hear those terms when a guest teacher is speaking or they take a class somewhere else. They're going to hear those terms and they're going to know them because they were introduced to them in this pretty beginner basic kind of way. You're giving them that foundation that's going to help them feel more comfortable when they try challenging things down the line. So not just physically, but kind of intellectually, emotionally. And then the other thing that you get from ballet that's real obvious to them once you explain it is anytime you are watching one of those competition shows, you get wowed by dancers, or especially big groups of dancers, doing extended turn sequences. And oh my goodness, how wonderful the a la seconde turns and all these multiple pirouettes. Well, give them a little ballet history for a second. Look at ballet story structure and tell them, so after this big romantic pas de deux, there was usually going to be a moment where the male dancer was featured and then the ballerina was featured, and they usually did these big show-off sequences of movement. And often they were, the gentlemen were doing turns and leaps, and so were the ladies. And especially you think about our swan and her 32 fouette turns. See, they didn't invent that just recently for reality TV. That goes way back. And, it doesn't hurt to show your students, hey, that's where that kind of stuff came from. That's why we're wowed by it. It's not just us that's wowed by it. Generationally, historically, we are wowed by the dancer who can do that. Well, that comes from your ballet class. And so they have to dial their resistance back a little bit. If they want to be cool like that and get featured on a video, maybe the start is at the ballet bar. You gotta gently ease them into it. Another very important thing that I like to utilize during this time, I talk about the way the fashion has influenced the way you move. And I say the fashion, meaning also the costuming and the idea of costuming. And then that's an easy enticement, because they love to see cool costumes. They love to see the different looks. And you don't have to just go back in time. You can even see how in, like, for example, the works of Martha Graham or Twyla Tharp, some of these people in the modern world, certainly Merce Cunningham and the way he used costumes and lighting and all, I can just nerd out on you. But the use of the spectacle of your costume, how it limits or enhances the movement. Then we can jump into the dance team world and the way a costume can make or break a way a performance looks. And then that sparks different conversations. And you're thinking, well, whatever. But it all starts with, what does the costume allow you to do? What does it show off? We love to see a skirt turning. Well, that inspires choreography, etc. It goes back and forth. So you can appeal to a creative brain in a lot of different ways. You can also talk to some of your students who are really into maybe visual arts and talk about the sculptural nature of movement, historically, the way color is used, to set moods before we had all the special effects. So there's lots of ways that you can draw them in and get them interested in the study of ballet without saying, we're going to study ballet today. Another really important thing that I love to show them is that the ballet has constantly evolved. We think about jazz really evolves. One of the big things I teach when I'm teaching my jazz unit is that social dance of the time really affects the content of the, shall we say, the new movement vocabulary in any given time period for jazz. Well, look where our ballet world has gone. And look how all the genres have crossed over. We now, we often talk about this contemporary movement, and sometimes we're not sure, is it ballet, is it jazz, is it modern, is it even sometimes the things we think about like street, hip hop, acro. All of these ideas are merging. And if you follow the ballet history, you're going to see that some of our most influential choreographers were people who broke trends or started trends. They broke tradition and started trends and changing the way, not every movement was done, turned out. Something might be inverted. We might let the body collapse. We may let that dancer take her hair down. These things come and move through history. And so it's not just this dry thing that happens like a little toy in a music box. Ballet evolved just like all the other forms. Now, it has this rich history, and it certainly has that iconic traditional look that we want them to learn about, but it's very much a living art form that they can grasp right now. And I super encourage you. I so often am dedicating my efforts to what's going on in the public education daily dance 1-2 kind of kids who are not getting the studio experience. But your super advanced dancers in any style, give them an opportunity to look at classical ballet and ask them to just mimic what they see, to try it and to experiment with it, because it's going to take their minds and their bodies in new directions that they may not have thought, oh, I thought ballet was just that stuff we do at the bar. It's much more expansive than that. So that next, vegetable that I hide in there is the concept of the expressive quality of dancing, which honestly actually comes around easier because we think of the conversation about lyrical dance. Well, the term lyrical means to express yourself enthusiastically. Then when we think about lyrical dance as a descriptor or a category of movement, we think of dancers often who really use a lot of ballet fundamental technique and alignment in the way they move, but yet they have a little more freedom. They're not in the point shoes. They're not relegated to that turnout all the time. So lyrical movement, which is something that they find to be, a lot of times the students are more comfortable saying, oh, I'm going to do this lyrical, because they like the emotional aspect of it, the expressive opportunities. They like to get into their emo music. And I'm joking about that, but I'm not really. If you have taught teenagers for any amount of time, while they may often have a flat affect on their face when you're trying to do it, give them the opportunity to listen to something emotional, and they will really get into it. And we're both cursed and blessed by a lot of amazing artists over the last, I'm going to say, decade, who have really gotten into the emotional aspects of storytelling in their songs. And so it's an easy way to transition the kids from the technical aspects of dancing into becoming more performance-oriented and expression and communication-oriented. By taking them from, like I said, from that ballet unit, you can tell them they don't have to think of themselves as definitely moving into a just strict ballet center combination. You can give them a lyrical combination in which you may be using the ballet positions. You might be using arabesque and attitude and some of the port de bras, that type of thing. But you've sugar-coated it a little bit by calling it lyrical. So those are some of the ways that I like to hide the ballet in their learning. So there's another way that I'm going to say I hide the veggies of ballet education in a project that is less restrictive and appeals to their imagination a little bit more. I talk about this as the Nutcracker Project. I have a very extensive project, again, on Teachers Pay Teachers. You can jump over there and find it, and it's got lots of parts to it, probably more than you can do in a class period. You really can pick and choose, because I try to be very thorough and give you opportunities to do lots of different things. But the idea of the Nutcracker Project, I'm hiding, if you want to use that term still, I'm hiding the idea that they're learning the history and story of that particular ballet, but they're also learning the ballet structure. They're learning about working with music and creating different characters. So you can probably do this. You could do it with any story ballet that has some good variations on it. If it's not the holiday time and you don't want to teach the Nutcracker, you could use Sleeping Beauty. You could use Coppelia. Anything that's got a multitude of characters and some character acting. I don't think I would have them, but you might want them to be the Willies for Giselle. Those are a bunch of man-haters. Who gives me the willies to think about it. I certainly bring that up in the October calendar, because you could teach a little bit about Giselle and the concept of the supernatural willies right around Halloween. That's kind of fun. But anyway, wherever you're taking your story, that's their creative project, their choreography project, and the important things that they learn in that is that when I give them the project, that you have a recipe that you want them to follow. Okay, this is pretty beginner choreography for most students, but you tell them that while the foundational movements need to be from this ballet vocabulary. I need tendus, I need pliés, I need relevés. I want to see the different positions of the feet. I want you to use rond de jambes. I need, of course, the pirouette, grand jeté if you're getting very fancy and advanced. You're giving them those foundational elements that you want in the choreography, but then you're giving them freedom to change the order that they do the movements in, and you're wanting them to change the way their upper body is utilized so that they are expressive. So you're getting that expression thing back in there. You might have introduced that like mid-unit for the lyrical combination being expressive, and now you're taking them into this concept of here's a piece of choreography that everybody in the class has the same ingredients. This is maybe MasterChef challenge too. Everybody's got the same ingredients, but how are you going to put them together in ways that uniquely make a combination that matches the happy nature of this variation or the more mysterious one of this, all the different ideas. So what I do with my Nutcracker project is I use the second act divertissement and I tell them about each of them. Now Nutcracker works amazing because most of the divertissement are less than 2 minutes. They're very short. The only one that's really, really long is of course the Arabian, and you can edit that. The other one that's pretty long, some people call it Mother Ginger or the clowns, that kind of thing. You can edit those down to make those short enough for them that it's the same length as the Russian or the Spanish variation. Wonderful idea to use a Nutcracker. Again, why am I promoting this? Because you can get a more advanced group could do the Spanish variation because it's counted different. A little more group's got a lot of flexibility, has a lot of balance control, could really show off their legs. You let them do Arabian. Your students who are not super duper skilled but yet have a lot of presence, you let them do Mother Ginger, or you let them do something that's a little more character oriented, a little less dance, but you still ask them to keep using that. Very ladylike, very perfect little ballerinas. Some people call it Mirliton's marzipan. You let them do that. So you really can see where you could differentiate your groups by what their skill levels are, and then you give them that divertissement, that selection of music for them to expand on. So you can even within your groups, you could sort of level so everybody's getting an appropriate challenge. I think that's great. The other side of that is that if you're not doing Nutcracker, you could still show Nutcracker and show them how it has all these different characters in this one particular act. And then you could let them make up their ballet story. Let them come up with a different group of people that, different divertissement, different groups that would be at a celebration, whether it's the Nutcracker celebration or Aurora's wedding and Sleeping Beauty, that type of thing. You can have them do different kinds of things. Now, of course, there's great interpretations now of the Nutcracker using different music, different genres of music, super fun. You can explore any of those. One of the things I would really encourage you to do in this unit, again, it's that hidden vegetable, is ask your students to find instrumental music to work with, whether you're doing the traditional ballet or you're letting them do other things, because it takes them to that next level of expertise. So you think about it. We were letting them do the lyrical and we're saying, here are your lyrics. What's the story you're telling? And now we're asking them, I want you to do your movement, your expression, your presence is going to help tell even the way you dance with each other is going to help tell the story. And I think that takes them to another level of challenge. So again, I've rambled on and on a little bit longer than normal, but I thought you would get a kick out of my thoughts about how you take something that seems so dry and almost old-fashioned to the kids, and you use it as a vehicle to give them so many different avenues to explore. And so I'm super advocating for you guys to do this throughout the next couple of weeks. So one last thing, if you want to hear more about this, you can certainly contact me, Angela at Danceable Thoughts. You can find me on social media. And of course, you go to Danceable Thoughts website. Not all of these are on exclusive access, but there's a few of them, and certainly on the Teachers Pay Teachers stuff. If you need some personal coaching about how to do this, I'm going to be happy to talk with you and give you some ideas to make this stretch from basically now to the holiday break really fulfilled. I want you to let yourself and your students enjoy this. I hope you all will think it through and dance it out.